so the godless atheism and communism on the other hand. Brothers and sisters, I just want to share with you, I have about 17 more minutes left, some of the characteristics of the balance that I mentioned, so that you take note of this and try to work out a situation where these 20 implications of wasatiyah could be actualized, or at least think about it. Number one is balance between the advocates of strict adherence to a jurisprudential school of thought and the advocates of loose adherence to a school of thought. So there you have people in Muslim countries who are fanatical about madhab, and then you have people who couldn't care about any kind of thing called madhab. That's the first implication of wasatiyah, socio political wasatiyah, or religio socio political wasatiyah. Number two, it is balance between those who support tasawwuf regardless of whether it deviates or innovates, and those who oppose tasawwuf regardless of whether it is proper and abiding by the Sharia. Again, the issue of tasawwuf is very important because to me, in the Malay world, in particular, tasawwuf is highly regarded not as something separate, not a system separate from the Sharia, but in fact is the soul of the Sharia. And you cannot have the Sharia without the soul. And so in our ibadah, alhamdulillah, the Malay Indonesian community, this about 300 million people in Southeast Asia, have inherited you might say the epistemology of the Ghazalian epistemology, in which fiqh, tasawwuf, kalam and falsafa are actually integrated. So tasawwuf, to my mind, teaches us about the ways to purify our heart, to clean our heart, our qalb, from the diseases, from the al-muhlikat, and so that we could really, as Ibrahim alayhi salam, جاء إلى ربه جاء ربه بقلب سليم. And of course also for us to prepare for يوم لا ينفع مال ولا بنون إلا من أتى الله بقلب سليم. How do you get this salamatul qalb if you are not really exposed to the well-established discipline of tasawwuf that our great leaders of the past taught us? Of course, you have to, the wasatiyah is between the false tasawwuf, the deviant tasawwuf, and then the you might say the anti-sharia tasawwuf. And I think we have that kind of problem in the Malay world as well. Number three, it is balance between those who insist on referring to reason, al-aql, even if it goes against the conclusive text, al-nas al-qata'i, and those who never refer to reason, even in understanding the revealed text. So you have also in our community, you have people who are very, very rationalistic. These are the aqlaniyun, and then you have people who are just very, very spiritual and have nothing. Again, you have to strike a balance between the two. This is a tawazun bain al-ifrad wa tafrit. Number four, it is balance between those who take from Western civilization is good as well as its evil, and those who reject it completely. We have this problem too. At one time, I remember Taha Hussein, despite his physical lack of sight, was saying we have to take everything from the West, the good and the bad, everything. You know, you just cannot just pick and choose. If you want to progress like the West, just follow Western culture, lock, stock, and barrel. That's one extreme. The other one, we just go and hide into the cave and say we have nothing to do with the modern world. The world is ending. The world is coming to an end. We just have to go into permanent dhikrullah in the cave. Now, both positions are wrong, and we have to strike a balance between this aqal orientation and also the ruhi orientation. Number five, it is balance between the advocates of strictness, this tashaddud, even in matters of branches and trivialities, and the advocates of leniency or tasahul, even in matters of principles and great conceptions. So again, you have people who are laxing on the one hand, strict on the other hand. And number six, it is balance between those who regard the heritage, the turath, as sacred, even if human failures are evident in it, and those who disregard the heritage, even when it shows signs of divine guidance. Again, you have this problem also, that the turath, for some people, everything in the turath is sacred. For some people, nothing is sacred in the Torah. So we have to, again, find the right balance between these two extremes. Number seven, it is balance between the philosophy of idealists who are hardly concerned with the reality. These are the mithaliyun versus the waqi'iyun, and the philosophy of the realists who do not believe in lofty moral ideals. I guess in Malaysian politics, we have many of these waqi'iyun and very, very few idealists left, because with idealism you cannot get power. With idealism you cannot be rich. With idealism, with sticking to those ideals, you cannot really be corrupted. It's good to be corrupted, because that's one way to become rich and powerful. And number eight, it is balance between the advocates of philosophy of liberalism, which bestows upon and inflates the value of the individual at the expense of society. This is capitalism and liberal democracy, and the advocates of the philosophy of collectivism, Marxism, and also communist socialism, which bestows upon and inflates the value of society at the expense of the individual. Number nine, it is balance between the advocates of inflexibility, even in matters pertaining to means, that is al-wasail, and devices, alat, and the advocates of evolutionary change, even in matters of principle and ends. Number 10, it is balance between the advocates of renewal and independent reasoning, even in matters pertaining to theological principles, and then advocates of unquestioning imitation or taqlid, and the adversaries of ijtihad. We have this also in our society in Malay. You go to the kampong, then you have this very, very hardcore taqlid, versus when you go to the city, you come across people who think they are qualified to do ijtihad, even when they do not know a word of Arabic or understand the Quran. Number 11, it is balance between those who disregard, 7 more minutes, thank you very much. I try to finish this, 20, as quickly as possible. It is balance between those who disregard the established texts, claiming to accommodate the higher objectives of divine law. We have this problem also. There are many intellectuals now talking of maqasid al-sharia, forgetting the sharia. And then you have people who talk about the, implementing the sharia, forgetting the maqasid. And the goal is how to establish hudud, and then not really thinking about the maqasid. And then you have the other side, the more liberal, saying that the liberalism is in line with the maqasid al-sharia, but they actually do not like sharia. Number 12, balance between advocates of infitah, opening to the world, and without any constraints, and just locking yourself in. Number 13, balance between advocates of religious extremism, accusing others of takfir, of disbelief, and those who are indulgent, the mutasahilun. Then you have number 14, is balance between those who indulge in politics at the expense of education, tarbiyah, and those who neglect politics completely on the pretext of devotion to education or tarbiyah. Number 15 is balance between those who are in a hurry to pick the fruit before it is ripe and those who neglect it until it falls into the hands of others after it becomes ripe. Number 16, it is balance between those who are preoccupied with the present and then forget about the future, and then those who exaggerate about the future, forgetting about the present. Number 17, balance between those who regard organizational structures as sacred, as though they are idols to be worshipped, and those who, as beads of a broken string, shirk any organized work. We have this problem in Malaysia, in Malaysian politics. There are some people who believe that their party is really sacred. Their party is sacrosanct, and they would do everything to sacrifice everything for the sake of party. But when it comes to performing the prayer on time or in Jama'ah, they will be the first to run away from it. Because prayer is not sacred, but the party is sacred. Number 18, balance between advocates of worldwide action without regard to local condition, and then those, okay. Number 19, balance between the overly optimistic who ignores the obstacles and dangers, and the overly pessimistic who sees nothing but darkness and doom. And number 20, this is the last one, is balance between those who go to extremes in forbidding things as if there's nothing permissible or halal in the world, and those who exaggerate in permitting things as if there is nothing forbidden in general. So these are some of the 20 things that the Muslim community should really be working so that at the end of the day, we will have a community, a society, a nation that is truly wasati in the Quranic sense of the word, not wasati in the normal understanding of the word, meaning that in Malay, the misconception is kesederhanaan, whereas wasatiyah is not kesederhanaan, but keseimbangan. It is equilibrium, it is balance, not making things easy. But of course, there are things that the Sharia makes easy. Yes, those are the sanctioned moderation. But what people are trying to imply is that you can make things very easy in Islam, and that is not wasatiyah, because wasatiyah stands for justice, for God, for humanity, for yourself, for the environment, and so on. Absolute justice, and then being fair and just, and then being excellent, being really good on the basis of rahmatan lil alameen. You do many good things for the sake of getting the rahmah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then you strike this balance. Now, if these qualities are presented, are present in Muslim society or nation or country, it will be a blessing to the world. This is what planet Earth is missing today. The economic system, the political system, and the culture and the media are not really taking us to this kind of justice, the moral excellence, and this balance, but taking us, to fasad, more and more fasad, more and more crisis. In fact, with this pandemic, and after this pandemic, more and more environmental problems will come. We have to brace ourselves for greater and more complicated psycho-spiritual crisis. Already we have many cases of stress, of anxiety, of depression, bipolarity, and so many other issues of mental health because of this COVID. But even before the COVID, this civilization, which is based upon the worship of science and technology, is taking the soul out of man and moving towards making us into robots. And this, of course, some of these people are quite serious with AI advancement, that they're looking forward to how to transform man into robots so that they can live forever. So thank you very much, Professor Tahir Misawi, for your patience in listening to the ramblings of this old man.
Thank you very much, dear Tansri Prof. Kamal Hassan, for this inspiring and instructive talk. Um, uh, there are few words actually that summarize in very succinct manner the gist and the message Prof. Kamal is conveying to us this afternoon. He spoke about uh, bankruptcy of the soul, and this is one of the most really threatening uh, things, developments in human life and human existence. Not only non-Muslims, but Muslims also are part of that. This bankruptcy, this shallowness of the soul is one of the, then the moral collapse, moral decline, moral decadence. And he has been pointing now and then to this very important issue. Then, of course, toward the end of his talk, he talked about, I'm just highlighting some of the uh, crucial problems and challenges. Talks about corruption, its diverse manners, talks about the ecological disorder and environmental crisis, and of course, the falling apart of many gods. People have been in the modern era worshipping the god of reason, the god of science, and that, and all these deities, deified things actually, have been collapsing one after the other, leaving mankind without any anchor on which to stand. Then he takes us back how to rectify, how to correct our march in history as a human race, as a Muslim ummah. And of course, Muslims have a responsibility not only towards themselves, but also towards mankind, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made them witness to mankind. وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً then لِتَكُونُوا شُهَدَاءَ عَلَى النَّاسِ وَيَكُونَ الرَّسُولُ عَلَيْكُمْ. So he talked about the paradigm of Tawheed. We need a paradigm shift, how to think, to see things in new lights, in different way, with different spectacles, with different glasses. And this means that there should be a comprehensive, holistic approach to things, not this partial and reductionist approach to the various problems, just one problem here. And so it has to have a global vision in order to rectify things. Then he talked about responsibility, and this is most important, because perhaps as a number of scholars, including specialized scientists, have been pointing out over the last few months, this pandemic is not just by chance event. It has to do with human behavior, with human conduct, with irresponsible human conduct. It's not just a human error, but it is more than that. So human beings are responsible for what they are suffering. And that's why the Quran tells us ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر بما كسبت أيدي الناس. أولما أصابتكم مصيبة قلتم أن هذا قل هو من عند الله. So it's قل هو من عند أنفسكم. So we have to question ourselves what has been going wrong with ourselves. And I think Prof. Kamal, with the number of items, the things that he has been mentioning, provide us with parameters on how to rectify and how to correct the march of Muslim Ummah first, and then of mankind. On that note, I would like to ask this question, and hoping that our dear followers, whether in this room or on the web, will, inshallah, will be receiving their questions through the chat. I want to ask Prof. Kamal how to restore spirituality and morality, not only at the personal or private level, but most importantly, at the public collective level, including, of course, politics and all that is public and social. With that, I uh, give back the mic to Prof. Kamal and looking forward for questions from the floor.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Tahir Misawi, for your excellent um, synopsis, and also for the question uh, that is how to restore this spirituality and morality, um, not just at the individual level, but at the public level, so that it becomes also a part and parcel of political culture in the Muslim world, because our politics in the Muslim world is really in a terrible state of affairs. Um, and Malaysia is not an exception. Um, in fact, I feel that there is an urgent need now for potential young politicians who would like to go into politics with the real desire to help the people for the sake of the people. They have to understand that this new political culture is bereft of spirituality and ethics. It's pragmatism. It is uh, deception. Is illusion. It is machination, and cash is king, and you can be bought. It's just, what's your price? Name the price, and people can buy you. This is the political culture that we have now in many Muslim countries and also in Malaysia. So therefore spirituality, and here let me just reduce it to iman and taqwa, okay? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, reduces this to iman and taqwa, basically. And of course, with iman, taqwa, you have ihsan, you have also muhabbatullah, but basically taqwa, because Allah says in the Quran, I don't have the time to give you the details, but for instance, وَلَوْ أَنَّ أَهْلَ الْقُرَى آمَنُوا وَاتَّقَوْا لَفَتَحْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ بَرَكَاتٍ مِنَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَلَكِنْ كَذَّبُوا فَأَخَذْنَاهُمْ بِمَا كَانُوا يَكْذِبُونَ. So if only these people of the country or the state or the town were to have real iman and real taqwa, then Allah would bring about all the blessings, all the good things. So Allah will bring the positive consequences of this. Allah will make that happen. But because they rejected, they denied, and therefore they had to suffer the consequences of their denial and their kufr. And many other verses about how taqwa brings about positive changes. So now you have the institutions, the family institution, the school institution, the masjid institution. These are non-formal educational institutions, except for the school. And then you have, of course, political parties. Then you have institutions, government bureaucracy. So in Muslim countries, there has to be this effort to infuse the values of iman and taqwa to become part of the culture of the organization, the culture of the political party, the culture of the NGO, the culture in the school. Because, in our school system, a lot of the time is spent on passing examination with good grades. And of course, there is lip service given to moral development, but because it's not really given a proper attention, and students don't see really the importance of moral development. So that part of iman and taqwa is missing in the school system. Whereas the Prophet ﷺ, you know what he said? He was sent by Allah not to create more PhDs or scientists and engineers and so on, but to bring to perfection the virtues of good conduct, good morality. إنما بعثت لأتمم مكارم الأخلاق. It's very important. Innama, the why this innama bu'ithtu, meaning that I'm sent only for this. Yeah, I'm not sent except for this. So that's why there is innama. Otherwise, you could say bu'ithtu li'utammima makarim al-akhlaq. But here, innama bu'ithtu. So very important. This akhlaq, but the school system, I'm so sorry to say, is not really delivering on this. In the mosque, yes, it's good people go to the mosque and get all these lessons and tafsir and so on. But then again, the culture in our mosque is focusing only on the religious and not really relating the religious to the mundane, the religious to the profane, the religious to the political, the religious to the economic, the religious to the environment, the religious to health, blah, 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 So the mosque, you go there for spiritual retreat. And then you go out there and then you face the concrete jungle, the city with all its problems. Okay, so Prof. Tahir Misawi, it has to be multi-pronged. The family has to really instill. Of course, you have to begin with the family, but then the family is also the product of the school. The family is also the product of the environment. So that's why I think the community leaders, those community leaders should bring in whatever you may be in the area of sports, let's say. You are a leader in sports, leader in culture, leader in education, leader in trade and so on. Then Iman and Taqwa must come in. It's all this for this reason that all the men who used to go to Friday prayers, they know it. At the end of the khutbah, there will be this, of course, in the Shafi'i khutbah, most of the time, that Inna Allah, before Inna Allah malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi, yeah? Inna Allah ya'murukum bil adl wal ihsan wa ita'i dhil qurba wa yanha, ya'muru bil adl wal ihsan. Yeah, okay. So this to have this ihsan and adl is very important, and this is also an aspect of taqwa. So now how to bring this at the level of politics? Then I would suggest that all Muslim political parties must have a strong tarbiyah ruhiyah program integrated in the political education program, not separated. It should be the sibgha Qur'aniyya for the program. In other words, the spiritual values color the political culture. The spiritual values color the economic culture, the business culture, the bureaucratic culture, the educational culture, the environmental programs, and so on. Because without this, then you are cutting off man from his master. Without Iman and Taqwa, then Homo sapiens is cut off from the master, the Rabb, the sustainer, the provider, the Razzaq, the manager, the controller, and so on. So this is my attempt to answer your question, Prof.
I think we are coming to the end of this session. I don't see on the screen any questions, but I feel what Prof. Kamal has just said in his submission and in his answer to my question is that he is calling for a total and profound transformation of the individual and the community of the society, and this has to be multidimensional. It does not go only one direction, and each and every person, every individual member of the community is responsible to contribute to this process of transformation, because it's not concerning just one layer of the society. It concerns all society collectively and individually. So with those words, I hope they are appropriate conclusion of today's session. I end this program and convey the salam to those who are here, to everyone out there, and hope that we'll be meeting on future occasions and have future opportunities to discuss other issues related to the situation and future of the Ummah, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.